The rainy season always carried a strange quiet over Federal Girls College, Umuopu, the kind of quiet that swallowed footsteps and made even laughter sound guilty. On that particular Wednesday evening, the sky had turned a heavy shade of purple, the kind that warned of a storm without promising when it would begin. Students hurried across the quadrangle, wrapping their cardigans tightly around their shoulders and whispering stories about ghosts that roamed during early rain. Far from the noisy cluster of girls, Alice Madu walked quietly, her textbooks pressed to her chest. Her steps were neat and measured, as though every sound she made had to be approved by the atmosphere. Alice was the kind of student who made teachers smile and made other students suspicious. She was brilliant, too brilliant, for someone whose entire life had been a story of abandonment. An orphan who worked twice as hard. A girl who never gossiped, never fought, and somehow always escaped the drama that Federal Girls College was famous for. But today, something in the wind felt wrong, charged, watchful. Alice felt it too. She paused beside the old mango tree near the science block and looked toward the thick stretch of forest behind the school fence. The trees swayed slightly, though the wind hadn't touched them yet. Their branches seemed to tremble in a rhythm that looked almost like communication. For a moment, she could have sworn the forest was calling her name. She shook the thought off and adjusted her textbooks.
Why is this happening?
She whispered to herself. But the forest was patient. Alice, however, wasn't thinking about spirits, omens, or legends. Her thoughts were on one person and one person alone. Emmanuel Adigwe, the principal's son. The boy who wasn't supposed to look at her. The boy who did more than look. Their secret meetings began innocently shared conversations at the library, accidental shoulder brushes, long pauses when exchanging notebooks. But their relationship had slipped far beyond what school rules or Emmanuel's mother would ever allow. And as the weeks passed, their bond deepened into something fierce, quiet, and forbidding. Tonight, he had asked to see her again. She glanced around to ensure no teacher or prefect saw her slip behind the math laboratory. When she rounded the corner, there he was leaning against the wall, hands in pockets, that soft smile he reserved only for her stretching across his lips. "You're late," Emmanuel teased gently. "I'm always late when the rain is threatening," she answered, smiling despite herself. Before she reached him, he extended his hands toward her, a gesture so small, yet so intimate, it made her stop breathing for a second. She placed her hand in his, and the storm cloud suddenly felt very far away. But even in that beautiful moment, the forest behind the school rustled again, louder, bolder, as if something unseen was shifting its weight, taking interest. Emmanuel stepped closer. "Alice, I've missed you." She lowered her gaze, hiding the blush his words brought. "We saw just 2 days ago." "That's too long," he said, brushing a stray curl from her face. Alice opened her mouth to reply, but in that instant, a loud clap of thunder tore through the sky. She flinched instinctively. Emmanuel chuckled and wrapped an arm around her shoulder. "Let me walk you to the hostel before it starts pouring." "I wish," Alice murmured with longing. "I wish we could walk freely, not hiding, not rushing." He hesitated before responding, his voice softer, conflicted. "You know my mother. She wants her legacy clean, perfect, controlled." Alice swallowed hard, feeling a familiar ache tighten her chest, and a stain on her perfection. "No," Emmanuel's grip tightened. "You're the only thing that feels real to me." His words wrapped around her like warmth in harmattan, but reality still hung heavily between them. They both knew the truth. The principal, Mrs. Adigwe, was a woman who wielded fear like a sword. A woman whose authority ran deeper than school rules. A woman who would destroy anything or anyone that threatened her spotless reputation. Alice had no place in her plans, and the forest seemed to know it too. Another thunder crackled loudly, closer this time. Emmanuel sighed. Let me take you to the
Are you
hostel.
okay?
They took one
Yes,
step
maybe because I
together
have not
and
eaten.
Alice suddenly stopped, her hand flying to her stomach.
Are you
A
okay?
sharp pain
Yes, maybe because
shot
I have not
through
eaten.
her. Emmanuel's eyes widened. Alice? What happened? She forced a smile. Nothing. Maybe I just didn't eat enough at lunch. But the pain wasn't hunger. It was a warning. The first undeniable whisper of a secret she had been avoiding for weeks. Emmanuel studied her face with concern, but before he could ask more, another group of girls rounded the corner. Alice quickly stepped away from him, pretending to adjust her books. Emmanuel straightened, putting distance between them in the practiced manner of two people trained by fear. The girls passed, giggling and running toward the dining hall. When they were alone again, Emmanuel whispered, "Come to the old store behind the senior hostel tomorrow evening. I need to talk to you properly." Her heartbeat quickened. "Is everything okay?" "No," he answered truthfully. "But it will be. I promise." His promise hung in the air, fragile, hopeful, a dangerous hope. Because just beyond the school fence, the forest had gone unnaturally still, as if everything inside it had stopped breathing. Alice walked away from Emmanuel, her footsteps fast and uneasy. The sky finally opened, releasing sheets of rain, so heavy they blurred the world. She sprinted toward the hostel, but halfway there, that sharp pain hit her again, deeper, heavier.
Are you okay?
She stumbled,
Yes, maybe
clutching
because
her
I have not
abdomen, and a terrifying realization slammed into her chest. She whispered it through trembling lips. "No, no, not now. Please, not now." Inside her, something new, something fragile, responded with a flutter. A cold wave of fear washed over her. She wasn't sick. She wasn't imagining things. She wasn't simply tired. Alice Madu, the brilliant, disciplined, orphan girl of Federal Girls College, was pregnant. Outside the gate, hidden among the trees, two glowing eyes blinked slowly,
I hope
watching
nothing
her,
scary is out here.
waiting,
This path
listening,
is so long.
calling. Alice shivered violently, not from the rain, but from the unmistakable feeling that something dark had awakened in the forest. And it had chosen her. Alice realizes she is pregnant and something supernatural is watching her. The rain raged through the night, pounding the zinc roofs like a furious drummer calling spirits from their sleep. Federal Girls College Umogbu became a dark cluster of trembling shadows as lightning repeatedly lit up the compound, slicing the night in sharp flashes. Inside Hostel B, girls whispered under blankets, trading ghost stories to distract themselves from the storm. Some talked about the crying girl said to haunt the old well. Others swore they saw a figure with long limbs pacing outside moments before the rain began. But Alice didn't hear their stories. She sat on her bunk, soaked clothes clinging to her skin, trembling fingers resting over her stomach. The rainwater dripping from her body made small puddles on the floor, but she didn't even notice. Her breath came in shallow bursts, each inhale unsteady, each exhale heavier than the last. Pregnant. The word repeated in her mind like a heartbeat. Pregnant. Impossible. Terrifying. Real. She called into herself, fighting the rising panic. How would she survive this? Where would she go? Who would believe her? She had no family, no relatives waiting outside the school gates. Her entire life depended on staying in the good graces of a system that did not tolerate error, especially not the kind growing inside her right now. A sharp knock made her jerk. Her roommate, Oluchi, peeked through the curtain, separating the bunks. "Alice, why are you wet? You've been sitting like that for over an hour. Are you okay?" Alice forced a smile so stiff it hurt. "Just got caught in the rain. I'm fine." "Fine?" Oluchi frowned. "Your lips are shaking. At least change your clothes before you fall sick." Alice nodded. But she didn't move. The weight of the secret pressed her down like a stone tied around her chest. When the light finally went out for bedtime, her thoughts ran wild in the darkness. What if she was wrong? What if it was something else? What if? But she knew. Her body knew. Her late periods, the nausea she kept blaming on exam stress, the sudden tiredness, they all lined up like undeniable evidence. This wasn't stress. It was life. And life didn't wait. By morning, the rain had stopped, leaving the entire school compound smelling of wet earth and old secrets. Mist hovered over the grass like smoke from an unseen fire. Alice walked slowly toward the assembly ground, heart banging against her ribs with each step. Every pair of eyes felt like a spotlight. Every whisper felt like suspicion. Do they know? Can they see it? Am I already showing? Her mind raced with fear until a familiar voice pulled her back. Hey, Alice, you look tired. Are you okay? It was Goodness, one of the few friendly girls in her class, bubbly, talkative, always curious. Alice tried to answer, but her voice came out as a strained whisper. I'm fine. Goodness wasn't convinced. You should see the nurse if you are feeling sick. She has that ginger tea that works wonders. Alice's breath hitched again. The nurse. She knew she would end up there eventually. And then, what would happen? A pregnancy test, a report to the principal, a scandal so big that Alice would be expelled before lunch break. Her legs weakened. The world tilted. She grabbed the nearest wall to steady herself. Goodness gasped. Alice, you are shaking. Before Alice could reply, the assembly bell rang. Students moved in clusters, chattering loudly as they gathered before the platform where the principal would usually address them. But today, she wasn't there. Only the vice principal stood waiting. And the moment he began speaking, Alice knew something was wrong. The school murmured in confusion as he announced, "The principal will not be joining us this morning due to urgent personal matters." Personal matters. Emmanuel. Alice's stomach twisted. She hadn't seen him since yesterday. She hadn't slept. She hadn't eaten. Her mind kept settling one single thought. I need to tell him. I need him to help me. The bell dismissed them, and she rushed toward the old store behind the senior hostel, the place he asked her to meet him. But as she rounded the corner, breath tight with hope and anxiety, she saw her, the principal, standing beside the old store. Standing exactly where Alice expected Emmanuel to be. Her heart crashed into her ribs so violently, she froze mid-step. The principal's cold eyes locked onto her like arrows. "Alice," she said, her voice smooth and deadly, "come with me." Thunder didn't roll this time. The world simply went silent. Alice swallowed hard. "Ma, is something wrong?" "Yes," the principal answered sharply. "Very wrong." She stepped closer. Too close. Alice felt her knees weaken. She couldn't breathe properly. Something in the principal's gaze told her she already knew everything. And she wasn't here to talk. She was here to destroy. "Follow me," the principal commanded. Alice opened her mouth to ask where, but the principal raised a hand and cut her off. "Do not speak." Alice's hands trembled. She followed. They walked past the classrooms, past the laboratory, past the dining hall, past the gate leading toward the bushes behind the school. Not a single teacher stopped them. Not a single student dared to ask questions. The path grew quieter, narrower, darker, and soon, Alice realized something horrifying. The principal was leading her into the forest. The same forest that had watched her last night. The same forest whose silence felt like a living thing. They walked deeper and deeper until the sounds of the school disappeared completely, replaced only by rustling leaves and the low hum of insects. Finally, the principal stopped in front of a small, dilapidated building with a broken roof and thick vines choking its walls. An abandoned house. "Go inside," she ordered. Alice's voice finally cracked. "Ma, please, what did I do?" The principal's eyes burned with pure, sharp hatred. "You know exactly what you did." She stepped closer, her words slicing like knives. "You have shamed my family." Alice's breath stopped. There it was. The truth. The confirmation. The beginning of her undoing. She shook her head quickly. "Ma, please, let me explain. Emmanuel and I." "Shut up!" the principal snapped. "My son is innocent. You trapped him. You, an orphan with nothing, trying to pull yourself up by destroying my household." Alice staggered back, tears burning her eyes. "That's not true. He loves me." The principal slapped her so hard she saw stars. "You disgust me." Alice couldn't even cry. Fear strangled every sound. The principal pointed to the abandoned house again.
"You have done your classwork."
"You will stay here," she said coldly. "You will not return to the hostel. You will not attend classes. You will disappear until that thing is born." Alice's world cracked. "Ma, I have no food, no clothes. I can't live here." "You will do as I say," the principal hissed, "or I will make sure you never step inside any school in this country again." Alice's lips trembled. "Please." "Move," the principal backed. Alice took a weak step toward the door. The principal's final words were a venomous whisper. "And Alice, if you dare tell anyone, I will bury your story so deep that no one will ever remember you existed." A single tear slipped down Alice's cheek. She stepped into the house. The door slammed shut behind her like a coffin lid. And as she stood trembling in the darkness, one horrifying truth wrapped itself around her heart. She was no longer a student. She was a prisoner in the forest, with something watching her from the shadows. Something that had been waiting for this moment. Something that softly whispered her name. The principal forces Alice into an abandoned forest house, not knowing something supernatural is.